As the euro continues to crash so deeply, we need to reflect on this and understand the implications of such a disaster in the US. So today we'll look at the collapse of the EU, how it is simply a warning for the US. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. We're going to first get into a couple charts here. The first one is the real S&P market cap and the real GDP. And based on this one chart, because you know that there are thousands of indicators that we can look at, however, looking at this one for the moment, we see that it is really expensive when above the 1990 present average. So using this indicator, we see definitely it is very expensive right now to own stocks. And of course, it seems very logical based on everything I've been covering, but the mainstream media will deny it, and there will be many people, even here, who deny that because they are simply having their savings inside of the stock market, and of course, they don't want to lose that. This is called a normalcy bias. You can research that for yourself if you're not aware of it, but of course individuals will protect themselves at all costs. Let's go on to this one right here. Markets are cheap, and then you look at how the PE ratios are way off right now, going off the chart in this instance right here, and it is nearing levels that it was back in the Great Depression. It already exceeded where it was a few years ago during the financial crisis, of course, and it is heading back to levels that were seen in the dot-com boom, when everybody knows that was the most historic PE ratio. Things were just absolutely ridiculous, but realistically we're not far off from that right now today. So these two indicators are definitely something to keep an eye on, and of course I will continue to bring out that information right here. So let's get into the big news. The euro fell on Thursday to within a whisker of its value against the dollar when it was launched in January 1999. Can't believe how far this has dropped, but the exchange rate hit 1.175, its lowest since December 2005, to continue the longest run of declining values in history. And you know, you look at what's happening right there, how we have the weak numbers, the inflation falling instead of calling it deflation, and the unemployment rising. Looking at Spain having an unemployment of 25%, but it's not just there. You look at everywhere around, and right here they said in December that the inflation fell to 0.2%, and this is with all of their fraudulent numbers, and you can only imagine what it is really looking like. So we'll move on to this next article, and it's talking about Greece, a Greek tragedy, how the debt crisis spread like a virus in contagion. This is something that I've consistently spoken about the Eurozone, because all of the dominoes will fall, and it will begin, or at least the major effects will take place in Europe because of this really bad decision that was made about the EU, and you cannot have one currency, one interest rate controlling all of these countries. So what they're talking about here out of this CNN article is that restructuring the Eurozone, the Euro debt, using the ESM and all these other different schemes that they've come up with, they said failure to act would mean riots, bank collapses, and would set back economies for a decade or more. And they said the similar things during the financial crisis in the US, where they said if you do not pass this bailout, the sky is going to fall and the markets will collapse by several thousand points within a couple days, and everything is going to, there's going to be blood on the streets and so on and so forth. They're using the same techniques on in basically every country around the world, and we will see this continuing on in the future. Anytime they have a crisis that is occurring or about to occur, they use fear. And they've done this not just in the financial side, they do it in the political side, and they always use fear in order to generate the emotions of the people so that they are willing and they will give up everything. They do not want people with free will. That is for certain. And of course, you can read the article here, but that's really what I wanted to get into, the fact that they always use fear of a bank collapse. But we don't need to have them saying this kind of information here. We know that the banks are going to collapse because the insurance, for example, in the US, the FDIC has next to nothing in the amount of insurance they are able to actually pay out. So if one single major bank needed to go bankrupt, was going to go bankrupt, you would have to have the central bank print up the money in order to give it to the depositors. And that is a very scary thought when you cannot even have your own insurance paying for the deposit insurance. It doesn't make a single ounce of sense, but here we are. Let's move on to this. Mercedes' departure adds to calls to lower New Jersey taxes. And this is at a local news here. And of course, it's saying that, they want to move New Jersey, the Mercedes-Benz out, basically moving the headquarters to Atlanta. And I'm just showing this as one recent example, but we always see consistently how the headquarters and actually the factories are moving outside of the Western nations. They're always looking for better places to do business. They're not looking for regulations. They don't want Obamacare on them. They do not want all these heavy taxation. They're going to move factories over to China. They're going to move them to Brazil, and they're going to use bailout money in order to do that, and it will happen again and again. You can see what's happening in Greece right now, how the money has been siphoned from the individual citizen, and they have basically sucked the country dry, and now they're ready to toss it out back into the world for the wolves to basically attack the sheep. And I said in my book that high-paying manufacturing jobs are not being created because developed nations are losing their business to the developing world. Their low wages, pro-business tax laws, and government regulations are sending high-paying jobs permanently away. And that is the absolute truth. It's pretty obvious. You see it happening locally where individual cities are basically taxing the corporations to death, taxing the people to death, so they're moving away. And when they tax them even more in that state or that city, then they just simply move offshore, and they even take their profits and move it offshore as well. So we'll move on right here, and this is all about Obama. This year is already seeing a wave of new regulations being published in the Federal Register as the Obama administration unveils 300 new rules in the first 7 days of 2015, according to the federal data. This is amazing because there's all these new regulations, agreements, treaties, bills, acts, and Obama's favorite, memorandums, that are all set up in order to steal your sovereignty, in order to steal your liberty. And that is what goes on. It's been going on not just since Obama, but been every president before him as well. It gets worse and worse and worse every single time. So I went to the site myself, regulations.gov, and I output this right here, and I got actually a total of 332 results when searching for these. So this is absolutely devastating to the individual, because the more regulations, the more laws they make, it is always hurting the people. It never protects the people. Every single time they always sneak something new in these regulations, in the laws. They always sneak something that has nothing to do with that law at all, and we see it going over and over and over again, and the public is simply waiting to be slaughtered. This right here, a Washington Examiner article, America has lost 1 million corporations since their height during the Reagan era, in part driven out of business by the industrialized world's highest corporate tax rate. and that's just the way it goes. It's going to a historically low level right now, and you could see how jobs are just being shipped overseas. Corporations are just moving out, and they're basically taking all of the profits with them, and this goes to show you what's going to happen in the years down the road. You can see in the EU with the VAT taxes all across Europe that are basically devastating people. We had the tax rate in France, which was quietly squashed. However, this is going to come back in every country. Extremely high rates of taxation, and even if they don't have that, they tax you in every single way. You have carbon taxes. They're going to be taxing us for every mile or kilometer driven. These are all coming down, and we have to realize this right now so we can be prepared now before it's too late. So let's move on right here to my last thing I wanted to mention, is that we have a situation now that is critical, that I would consider a red alert, and I do not use that lightly. One of the channels, Gregory Mannarino, was apparently hacked into. We saw recently where X22 Report was shut down. I know of other YouTube channels in the health industry that have been shut down as well recently. Thankfully, these channels have come back. Gregory Mannarino's at this time looks like there's no videos on it at all. But what I wanted to say is that we are definitely under attack for the truth. People are very upset that this is happening. The silliness and stupidity of certain YouTube channels that are out there are allowed to continue to basically output the propaganda out there, but the individuals trying to spread the truth, at least with honesty, and some of us, we don't have all the best skills, we don't have the fancy studios, but what we have on our side is the truth, and that is exactly what we are trying to do here, just spread the truth. So what I've done here is actually began uploading all of my old videos, or all of my videos I should say, to Dailymotion as a backup. You don't have to go there. There's no new data going to be put up there, but I am basically going to upload everything up onto there. Should they shut me down, we still have a way to communicate. So that's one thing that I'm doing. What I will say to you right now is, please do yourself a favor. Go over to my main channel page and watch the documentary if you haven't already. I'm going to be taking this video down tomorrow. So please, if you haven't watched it, you need to get it done right now. Watch this, please. It is not very long, but it is really good work. But because the screenshot here, because there's some content in there that I did use from alternate sources, I'm just not going to take any risks. I'm going to delete this video, and that will be it. All of the videos that contain other content will be gone. So we're going to protect ourselves here as we move through 2015, so we can bring out the truth here. And one more thing is, if you get on the insiders, that's going to be the best way to get in touch with me should anything happen to the channel. I will basically send out an email blast to everybody letting you know what happened and what exactly is going on. So I appreciate it if you get on there, not even for the emails. You could just delete the emails if you don't even want them, but simply to have a backed up, a means of getting in contact with me should YouTube or anything else shut down, or whatever may happen. This is always a way to get in touch with me. And of course, you need to be on the insiders to get the latest and greatest intel. And in order to do that, you need to go to themoneygps.com, scroll down to the bottom, fill in your email address, and you get occasional emails from me with good, short, concise info.